As public opinion continues to turn against the Jedi, the Yuuzhan Vong unleash a new weapon to destroy their fiercest opponents once and for all. Welcome to the Wizards and Warriors channel, where today we're continuing our examination of the Yuuzhan Vong War as it crosses over to its third year, and the hunt for the Jedi reaches its apex. In the months which followed the attack on the Jedi Academy on Yavin 4, the war seemed to remain at a standstill. The hunt for Jedi remained ongoing, as many within the New Republic pressured Chief of State Bossk-Felia and his administration to acquiesce to War Master Tazvong Lar's demands and sacrifice them to the Yuuzhan Vong as the price to end the war, leaving them with the territory they had already conquered. In order to protect the Jedi, Master Luke Skywalker requested the aid of Han and Leia Solo, along with other allies like the smugglers Booster Terrik and Talon Karrde, who had aided the Jedi in the defense of Yavin, to establish what Luke called the Great River. This project aimed to establish secret bases for the Jedi, along with transportation to them for Jedi or refugees seeking to escape capture throughout the galaxy. This plan also involved working with other local resistance groups, and even the Hutts, to coordinate Jedi infiltration behind the Yuuzhan Vong lines. Booster Terrik's Star Destroyer, the Errant Venture, was used as a mobile base in and of itself, primarily for the transport of younger Academy students. Bowing somewhat to the public pressure and pressure from the Yuuzhan Vong, who argued the Jedi had violated their truce in the Battle of Yavin 4, Bossk-Felia issued a warrant on behalf of the Senate for Master Luke Skywalker's arrest. His real hope was that this would force Luke away from Coruscant, allowing him to argue that the Jedi were out of the New Republic's reach, while leaving them able to be called upon for aid in the future. With Coruscant no longer a hospitable environment, Luke and Mara Jade Skywalker rendezvoused with the Errant Venture, while sending Jaina Solo to track down Master Kip Duran, hoping to begin drawing the fracturing order back together under his leadership. Once on board the Errant Venture, Terrik suggested to Skywalker a potential location for a base in the deep core, where navigation was difficult due to masses of black holes and other obstacles. This suggestion led to the establishment of a Jedi base on the planet Eclipse. Another base, known as Shelter, was also established in the Maw. The arrest warrant was soon rescinded, but the gulf was continually widening between the Jedi and the New Republic. The Errant Venture was also where Mara Jade gave birth to her and Luke Skywalker's son, Ben, after a difficult pregnancy, paired with her illness, caused by a Yuuzhan Vong bioweapon. Thanks to the intervention of Luke and the gift of the mysterious being Vagir's tears, covered in a prior episode, Ben Skywalker's birth coincided with the destruction of the last remnants of the toxins impacting Mara. While the Yuuzhan Vong were refraining from overt military action deeper into New Republic territory, raids on shipping and attempts by agents like Nominor to undermine local governments and foment insurrections continued. But this was also a crucial period of technological development for the Yuuzhan Vong. One shaper, Nen Yim, who had been involved with the attempt to remake Jedi trainee Tahiri Vela into a Yuuzhan Vong, found herself stationed on a dying Yuuzhan Vong world ship, the Banu Mir. This world ship, suffering from old age after traveling the intergalactic void for a millennium, had lost control of most of its functions, and Nen Yim undertook efforts to rehabilitate it, particularly its brain, called a Rikyam, which coordinated all of the world ship's functions. This proved to be a difficult task. The Yuuzhan Vong Shaper Arts were organized into 8 cortexes, with access to each limited by rank. The highest level of cortex was accessible only to the Supreme Overlord. Engaging in shaping with methods not included in the cortexes, which were believed to have been filled with knowledge handed down from the gods, was considered heresy of the highest order. Nen Yim, not yet a Master Shaper, was only allowed access to the 5th cortex or lower, which did not include the knowledge needed to help the Banu Mir's Rikyam. Despite the prohibitions, Nen Yim nonetheless developed new techniques to improve the state of Banu Mir, drawing the attention of a Master Shaper named Kai Quad. In reality, this was the familiar of Supreme Overlord Shimra in disguise. His true name was Animi, a member of the Shamed caste who accompanied the Supreme Overlord as a court jester. But he also undertook secret assignments for Shimra. In this case, he had sought out Nen Yim specifically for her willingness to work outside the orthodox cortexes, bringing her to Shimra, who declared himself the gateway to new knowledge, and privately gave her resources to begin new, secret shaping projects. However, Banu Mir was left to die. More immediately impactful was another shaping project, established under the leadership of a shaper named Yarl Path, aimed at developing a weapon to destroy the Jedi. The information to finally make progress with this mission came during the invasion of Yavin, when Talon Card introduced the Peace Brigade, and by extension the Yuuzhan Vong, to the Vornske wolves of the Myrkr, creatures that hunted using the Force and could easily track Force users. With this information, the Banu Ras world ship was stationed over the planet Myrkr, where it was used as the laboratory for the creation of a new creature, mixing the Force hunting capabilities of the Vornske with the Pharaoh Zin of the Yuuzhan Vong's own galaxy. The resulting creature, called the Voxyn, was an 8-legged monstrosity, able to hunt with the Force, spit acid, debilitate enemies with its screech, and infect targets with deadly viruses through disease-carrying claws. These creatures were soon deployed across the galaxy, hunting Jedi more effectively than any other being. The Yuuzhan Vong began boarding shipping and passenger liners to search for Jedi with the Voxyn, as they did aboard the Nebula Chaser. Jedi Knights and Sisters Alema and Numa Ra had sought refuge on the ship after fleeing New Plimpto, where they had helped lead the resistance to the Yuuzhan Vong before the system was overrun. Once boarded, Captain Pollux of the Nebula Chaser attempted to lie to the Yuuzhan Vong about the Jedi's presence, a rare act in protection of the Jedi given the state of the galaxy. Alema and Numa attempted to trick the Yuuzhan Vong into thinking the Voxyn, which had detected their presence, were wrong, hoping to spare Pollux the Vong's retribution for lying. Unfortunately, the sisters were unprepared for the danger posed by the Voxyn. Alema was just barely able to escape in an escape pod, but Numa was killed. Jaina Solo and Mara Jade Skywalker were nearby, in what was supposed to be a quick rendezvous in Mara's ship, the Jade Shadow, allowing them to rescue the injured Alema. Simultaneously, in the Bilbringi system, Han and Leia met with Nominor, acting as an emissary of Savong La. Showing a live hologram of the Nebula Chaser, Nominor claimed that if the Jedi gave up the location of their secret refuge, the passenger liner would be spared, along with the 10,000 refugees on board. When Han and Leia refused, the Nebula Chaser was destroyed. Nominor further informed them that if the Jedi had not surrendered within a week, refugee ships being held by the Yuuzhan Vong fleet around Talfaglio, likely holding millions of refugees, would all be destroyed. Over the days which followed the Nebula Chaser's destruction, the Jedi remained unsure of how to best respond to the threat posed by the Yuuzhan Vong to the refugees. Meanwhile, the Voxyn proved just how threatening they could be to the Jedi. 2 Jedi were killed, one on the New Republic stronghold of Kuat in the core, and Han and Leia came into conflict with a team of 4 over Coruscant itself, barely escaping. Luckily, information provided by the recuperating Alema Ra gave the Jedi at least some idea of what they were up against. While Master Luke Skywalker called for unity among the Jedi, Master Kip Duran continued his independent campaigns, harassing Yuuzhan Vong forces with his squadron. The calls for unity were not unheeded, though. Another Jedi Knight, Saba Sabatine, had recently joined the Order after having been independently trained along with several others in the Outer Rim by a master named Elisa, who was believed to be monitoring Corellia for the Order. However, she too soon became one of the victims of the Voxyn. At a meeting of the New Republic Military Oversight Committee, Leia and Jacen Solo were present as the committee debated the appropriate response to the Talfaglio blockade. Jacen suggested cutting off the blockade with 3 Star Destroyers, splitting the committee down the middle. Chief of State for Leia suggested that, rather than immediately taking action, they would conduct a study under General Gambel Iblis while he attempted to negotiate with the Yuuzhan Vong. Leia realized that the only bargaining tool the New Republic had was the Jedi, storming out of the meeting with Jacen. At the same time, Senator Shesh, who had long been among the highest-placed spies for the Yuuzhan Vong in the New Republic, hurried to inform Savong La of the plan to lift the blockade on Talfaglio potentially. While the Jedi casualties continued, the encounter between Han, Leia, and the Voxyn over Coruscant proved to be a cloud with a silver lining. Master Kilgal and her apprentice Tekli, the Order's most skilled healers and biologists, discovered a key secret behind the Voxyn. All genetic material among their 4 specimens was identical, indicating that the Voxyn could be bred, and that they were all clones of a single original source. If the source could be destroyed, then the Voxyn could be neutralized as a threat. The Jedi moved to quickly gather further specimens to confirm this hypothesis, raiding Yuuzhan Vong convoys to track down Voxyn, while the Yuuzhan Vong envoy, Nominor, moved to Coruscant. Once there, he addressed the full Senate, presenting the terms of Jedi surrender in exchange for the lives of refugees. Unexpectedly, Borsk Fey'lya came out strongly in support of the Jedi, pledging his own system to their protection, and decrying the Yuuzhan Vong as cowards who feared the Jedi, to the dismay of the also present turncoat Vicky Shesh. Nomenor was arrested rather than being allowed to leave. With Fey'lya now taking a more active stance against the Yuuzhan Vong, Shesh implored Savong La to assassinate him, so that she herself could be installed as a pro-Vong, even more anti-Jedi chief. The Jedi themselves had learned even more about the Voxyn. On top of confirming their nature as clones and the existence of a Voxyn queen, from whom the others were derived, they confirmed the Voxyn were being created in a world ship above the planet Myrkr, where the Vornskir from which they were derived originated. A plan was then devised to infiltrate the Voxyn lab and destroy the Queen, taking advantage of the Yuuzhan Vong's search for Jedi prisoners. Lando Calrissian would pose as a collaborator, taking a ship full of 16 young Jedi apprentices, including all 3 solo children, Tahiri Vela, Tekli, Alema Ra, and several others, along with Jedi Knight Gana Risiod, to a rendezvous point near Myrkr. The Yuuzhan Vong were led to believe that Lando had been working with the Jedi Resistance, ferrying the strike team to safety before betraying them. Once the Yuuzhan Vong ship docked with Lando's, the Jedi were taken on board the Yuuzhan Vong vessel, Exquisite Death, along with a team of Lando's newly developed Yuuzhan Vong Hunter battle droids, who secretly stowed away on the ship. Believing the Yuuzhan Vong's threats had led to more people turning against the Jedi, Nomenor once again appeared before the Senate to gloat about the capture of these Jedi, particularly the solo children, while announcing Savong La had extended the deadline to turn over all Jedi. In this gathering, he also learned, to his extreme discomfort, that Jacen and Jaina Solo were twins, as were Luke and Leia, something which held extreme importance within the Yuuzhan Vong religion, where 2 of the gods, God of War Yun Yamka and God of Trickery Yun Hala, were also twins. Despite this off-putting discovery and Bossk Fey'lya's attempts to silence Nomenor, Vicky Shesh announced on his behalf that a similar number of Jedi every 10 days would keep the refugees over Talfaglio alive, claiming to simply be allowing the Senate to hear information Fey'lya wanted hidden. Fey'lya also took this moment to announce a failed attempt on his life, which was thwarted by Lando's Vong-hunting droids, recognizing the political challenge from Shesh, whom he simply saw as an appeaser, but not that she had been part of organizing the attempt. As the political theatre played out, Nomenor unleashed a toxic attack on the chamber, knocking out those present before escaping to rejoin Savong La. With the Myrkr mission ongoing and the Talfaglio situation seeming to be at a standstill, another Jedi project was also underway. A scientist who you may remember from our earlier episodes, Danny Kui, was installed with Saba Sabatine's Wild Knights, attempting to analyze the Yamosk War Coordinator's actions to learn ways to disrupt them. In one such battle at the core planet Arcana, uncomfortably close to Coruscant for the New Republic, the Yuuzhan Vong made an unexpected retreat, indicating to Saba that they were attempting to conserve forces for an attack on another target. Finally deciding to take a proactive approach to the refugee situation, Luke Skywalker and other members of the Order had joined with the New Republic Defense Force to execute Operation Safe Passage, an attempt to free the hostages at Talfaglio. The Yuuzhan Vong force consisted of 4 Matlock cruisers, 1 Mid Roik, an Avec Ilunu carrier, and 20 supporting frigates. On the New Republic side, there were dozens of Jedi, including Luke himself, leading the new Saber Squadron, Kip Durran's dozen, Saba's Wild Knights, the Star Destroyers Elagos Akla and Mon Mothma, commanded by Generals Wedge Antilles and Gam Beliblis, along with half a dozen other support ships. The quick, unexpected assault went heavily in the New Republic's favour, allowing them to not just free the refugee ships held around Talfaglio, but to capture a Yamosk War Coordinator. Returning to the Myrkr strike team, after enduring days of torture aboard Exquisite Death at the hands of its crew and their Voxyn, the Jedi and their YVH droid support managed to mutiny, taking over the ship. They relied on Tahiri and Jaina's past experience flying Yuuzhan Vong ships to reach Myrkr, infiltrate the world ship Banu Ras, and begin their hunt for the Voxyn. Soon after the Exquisite Death failed to return to its assigned destination, Savong La surmised that the Jedi capture had been part of a ruse aimed at disrupting the Voxyn project. He dispatched both Nomenor and Vergir to the Banu Ras, with specific instructions that Jaina and Jacen be captured alive. With their status as twins known, he had promised them to Supreme Overlord Shimra, and the Yuuzhan Vong began hoping they could pit the two against each other in a sacrificial battle. The Jedi, not knowing they had been found out, faced further unexpected obstacles once they reached Banu Ras. A pair of Dark Jedi, Lomi Plo and Welk, were also being held captive by the Yuuzhan Vong. The strike team freed the pair and began cooperating to destroy the Voxyn, but as they fought through the world ship, casualties began to mount. 5 of the young Jedi were killed as they made their way through the world ship. The team were successfully able to eliminate the Voxyn Queen, but Lomi and Welk stole the ship the team planned to escape on, inside of which one of the injured strike team members, Raynar Thul, was resting. This proved devastating for the remaining members. Anakin Solo had been grievously injured, and his own life had depended on a quick escape. Knowing his fate was sealed, he perished in a final stand against the Yuuzhan Vong, pursuing the remaining strike team members on the ship. Jacen Solo was also captured by the mysterious Vogare, whose true allegiances remained unclear, and taken into Yuuzhan Vong custody. The remaining 9 Jedi, including Jaina, were able to steal Nomenor's ship, the Kastar, and escape, denying the Yuuzhan Vong the opportunity to capture both twins. The strike team was devastated by their own losses, despite successfully eliminating the Voxyn threat. Cut off from communication with the rest of the galaxy as they were, they had no way of knowing about the rescue of the Talfaglio hostages, or the actions of the Vong that followed soon after. In our next episode, we'll be talking about Battle Plan Coruscant, as the Yuuzhan Vong conquest of the Star Wars galaxy approaches its zenith, and the Skywalker Solo clan deal with the death of Anakin and the capture of Jacen. Please consider liking, subscribing, and clicking the bell to be notified when that and other videos on the Wizards and Warriors channel are released. These videos would also be impossible without the support of our patrons and channel members here on YouTube. You can follow the links in the description to join them and get early access to our videos, our Discord, a release schedule, and other benefits.